Hey, it's July 2nd. No, July 3rd. July 2nd, 2020. I have no idea what day this even is. Who the heck knows? I don't know what's going on. Anthony, you are looking awfully different today. And I must say, a hell of a lot more attractive than normal.
I've been thinking about exactly how I was going to make myself look better. And I just decided to CGI in Jeff's face and grow his beard and hair.
And I like how you mastered all of his mannerisms as well. Well, let's get to it. All right. Hey, everybody. It's actually July 2nd. I don't know what's going on. You'd think after all of these months in quarantine, I would have an idea of what's going on with the calendar. Every single day that I'm here locked in, I put another little line up on the wall, and I've got a lot of them, and I just can't seem to add anymore. Jeff, great to see you. For all of you out there, Anthony is unable to make it today. I think he mentioned it yesterday that he's taking his daughter upstate and was going to be unavailable to chat today. So we got a great show today, even without the incredible Anthony Melchiori. And I'm really looking forward to everybody participating today. So how you doing, Jeff? Great to see you, man.
I'm doing good. I'm actually in San Luis Obispo, about 3 hours south of San Francisco. Got here yesterday, stayed in a hotel. And it's good to be back on the road, kind of, sort of.
Right. Yeah. Excellent. That's really awesome. Well, it's good to have you. We're waiting for Biran Patel, the chairman of AAHOA, to arrive. I don't know exactly where he is, but hopefully he'll be up with us shortly. So, Jeff, tell us a little bit about the hotel that you're in.
So I'm in the Kinney Slow, and they were gracious enough to put me up for the night. I've stayed in a couple hotels since this whole thing started, with going to Vegas or staying at La Pierre Kimpton in Hollywood and kind of getting a break from being cooped up. But I walked into this hotel and I was actually pleasantly surprised by the way they were handling things and the safety and the comfortability level. Walked in. Everybody had masks on. Great signage in the whole area. I checked in and they gave us this little kit that is a commitment to the health and safety, with a mask and some hand sanitizer. There's sanitizer stations all around. There is really nice signage at the elevators, and while you're talking to Brian, I'll try to pull that up, and so you can see it, because it's a permanent sign, and this is the first time I've seen a really nice permanent sign. Everything that I've seen before, even in Vegas, even at some of these higher end casinos, was you could tell that they just kind of makeshift printed a sign to get something out there, and this looked more like, okay, this is our commitment. We've done this. We've invested the money into saying that this is our elevator etiquette and this is what it's going to be like for a while.
Right. Yeah, that makes a whole lot of sense. So I want to talk to you more about that. But since Mr. Biran Patel is here, I would love to go ahead with chat with him. So, Jeff, if you don't mind, we'll put you backstage so you can run the show, and we'll bring in the brand new chairman of AAHOA. How's that sound to you?
Have fun.
Mr. Chairman, so happy to call you that in person. Congratulations. I hope you're doing absolutely fantastic today.
Hey, Glenn, how are you?
I'm doing pretty good. Well, thank you so much for being here. I got to tell you, man, it is so exciting to see that you made it to the chairmanship. It's been a very, very difficult time for all of you folks out there, after all. I mean, what an unusual series of events, but you finally became chairman last week, was it? Again, I have trouble knowing what day it is. Was it last week or is it the week before?
It was about 12, 13 days.
All right, 12, 13 days ago.
June 19th.
Almost 2 weeks ago. All right. So for everybody out there who doesn't know who AAHOA is, shame on you. You should know because of such a huge organization. What are you up to? 750 billion members already? Was it like 17, 18,000 or something?
We're at 20,000 now.
20,000. It's unbelievable. You guys continue to grow leaps and bounds. And one of the reasons why is you've been very successful engaging folks outside the Indian American community to participate in it as well. So it looks to me you've got plenty of room to keep growing that organization and continuing to be more powerful.
Yeah, so I mean, as you said, we have grown over time. You know, if we want to be recognized as the largest hotel owners association in the world, we welcome everyone who's in the industry that want to be part of it. You know, I mean, we've done a lot of good things in the last 3-4 years to evolve and to stay current and relevant.
Yeah, sure is. All right, so Biran, this has been, as I said, an unusual event. Jagruti was supposed to have left the chairpersonship back in April when your conference was originally scheduled. What was that process like, being able to make that transition now prior to the conference coming up in August?
Yeah, so as you mentioned, our conference was supposed to be April 12th, and that was when I was supposed to take over as chairman. But because of COVID-19, we had postponed our conference to August. And according to our bylaws, the baton is passed over at conference like we have in the past years. But we came to an agreement that, not knowing what's going to happen here in the future with COVID, that we should go ahead and make the transition. So we went ahead a couple of weeks ago and made the transition.
Right. So what was the first couple of weeks like for you? Such an unusual time. You become chairperson, right? You think everything's going to be moving forward. All of a sudden, the rug gets pulled out from under you. The conference that we were all so looking forward to in August has now moved from an in-person event in the Orlando area to a virtual event. I got to tell you, Biran, I'm heartbroken. I know it was the state of Florida's Department of Health that put you guys into this position, but I'm just devastated.
Yeah, I mean, when we postponed our conference to August, we were looking forward, as you mentioned, to having this industry conference. You know, how do we tell guests and promote travel to come to our hotels if an owners association is not having the conference? So, we've tried to make it happen, obviously with the precautionary measures in place. But as the governor came a couple weeks ago, or I guess on the 20th, stated that we can't have gatherings more than 50 people. So basically our hand was forced. And so now we've pivoted to a virtual event that's happening during the same time frame. And I'm confident that we're still going to have a good turnout virtually, and our agenda is going to be powerful and informative for all of our attendees.
Yes, well, I got to tell you, the thing I'm most disappointed about is that I thought it was going to be a great kickoff for all of us to get back to it, right? A good psychological reset, something we're all desperately needing over there. But at least you're going to be doing this event virtually. And I know that more details are going to be coming out the next few weeks. So I can't really start asking you questions about how it's going to work because you guys are still determining how it's all going to work. But what was that process like for you then, knowing that you can't do this event in person, that you've been working so hard to put together? That was your role, is to get that whole event together. And now suddenly you've got to do this pivot. So behind the scenes, what was that whole experience like for you?
Yeah, so as being the convention chair for this past year, we were planning with my committee and the board, and we had some good things lined up. And now that we're having to pivot to a virtual event, our AAHOA team had already kind of had a contingency plan in place as far as, hey, we might have to pivot this way because, as you know, this pandemic, it's so fluid and so much uncertainty that we don't know what's happening next week.
Right.
So, we've kind of done our homework, and we're creating an agenda that's going to be informative, try to create as much up-to-date data for our attendees of what's happening and, how to kind of navigate through these times and, try to see what the next year to 2 years is going to look like, right? I mean, everybody has their own predictions of what's going to happen, but the road to recovery, how do we navigate through that is our main concern. So we're going to have, we're planning on having great guest speakers that can create, give us that content to educate us and to give us an outlook of what the near future looks like.
Right. And I'm just spitballing here, and I see Rachel Humphrey is watching the program. Hey, guys, if you guys want to put something together, since, theoretically, we're the official podcast of the AAHOA, but since we're not going to be able to be at the AAHOA, maybe we could put something out and dedicate some of our live shows every day here across all these channels at noon to the event. Maybe we could get you, if you have some free time, to join us, any of the other folks that are on the board, or perhaps some of those member profiles that we'd like to do, we could get them. So just putting that out there, I think that would be a great way to round out the coverage for folks that aren't fully engaged in the AAHOA event, as a great pathway to get them engaged in the event. All right, so tell us a little bit about what you hope to expect and accomplish during your tenure as chairman with AAHOA in 20 and 21.
Yeah, so I'm sure, when I was envisioning taking over chair, the goals were a little different than what they've become. But, I think that two of the main things that we need to try to achieve, not only as an association, but as an industry, is how do we get travel tourism back, right? And bring our workforce back.
Right.
Those two things are going to be critical and vital here in the next couple of months and the next, upcoming years, to try to get back to pre-COVID revenue and numbers. And I read a report just yesterday from CNBC, that said that, in the month of June, 4.8 million jobs were gained and unemployment was, dropped to 11% or 11.1%.
Mm-hmm.
Then I also read, that the Department of Labor said yesterday that last week, over 1.4 million people applied for unemployment first time. Right. So it's kind of like, okay, people are coming back, as the economy is opening, and, people are getting their jobs back, but then also people are now laying people off who, try to sustain and not furlough, but now time is, we're seeing a possible second wave coming, or has come, where people are now just can't sustain the liquidity and afford these employees, so they're having to lay them off. So it's a tough time. So, as I stated, that we need to try to get, travel tourism back and try to bring our workforce back are two of the main objectives to try to navigate through this pandemic.
Right. And that's why the fact that you can't do your conference is even more heartbreaking. We had the wonderful, incredible, iconic hotelier Harris Rosen on our show last Friday. He, of course, for those of you who don't know, is based in the Orlando area and really built his business starting in 1973. Now is one of the major employers in Orlando. When we had him on the show, he was absolutely devastated and heartbroken that his hotels won't be filled with your members, coming. And he's at that point now where he's bleeding $6 million a month, wow, paying all of his employees to keep them on payroll. But because events like yours are being forbidden to be there, he's now worried that he's not going to be able to keep going. He's not going to be able to keep paying all of these people. And he's really worried about the health and safety of all of these beloved employees that he has. So it's really important for all of us to figure out how we can get traveling again. What are some of the things that you're thinking about in order to encourage people to travel again, Biran?
Well, I think that, our hoteliers are pretty resilient, and to make the customer feel comfortable traveling again. So we have to set the precautionary measures, the health and safety, measures that we are creating to make them feel comfortable, making sure that we're sanitizing our common spaces, our rooms. We have to create the culture out there in our industry to make them feel comfortable travel again. As I mentioned earlier, and as you know, Glenn, that it seems like a second wave has come. Several states, COVID cases are rising, and that's putting a fear again into the travelers, right? And it's gonna be interesting to see what happens here and during this long weekend. I expect that COVID cases are gonna continue to rise. And so to try to take the fear out of our travelers is one of the key things. And how to do that is basically to create this right culture and mentality that we're doing all that we can do to keep our hotel rooms and our hotels clean, to make it a safe environment for everyone.
Right. Yeah. And that's what really worries me, is helping people get over the fear of travel. Now, when I traveled for the first time at the beginning of June to go to the reopening of Las Vegas, it was a time of optimism, excitement. I got to tell you, I was anxious, but I felt comfortable once I got on that airplane and saw what the policies and procedures were. I felt great when I checked into a hotel off the strip in Las Vegas, and I felt completely ecstatic and amazing checking into the Bellagio and seeing all the precautions that they took. In fact, I still have my little kit here that it has a mask and sanitizer and other necessities for to enjoy your stay. But the sudden shifting back with all of these cases suddenly rising 80+% in the last 2 weeks is going to make people more frightened and more scared. And it's really important for all of us, I think, to get out there and get the messaging that travel is safe. What do you think your individual members can do and folks in the wider hospitality community could do to adequately tell people, come stay at our hotel. You will be cared for. Your health will not be at risk if you stay in our hotel?
Yeah, I mean, they need to create a marketing plan, right, to get the word out through social media platform, through their websites, through their brand partners, to show, because a lot of people are, loyalty members, right, reward members. And so through the brands, through associations like AAHOA, we need to kind of create that marketing to make them feel comfortable, right? And then as people come and stay in your hotels, you want to make sure that their experience is a positive one. So as you know, reviews go a long way, right? So if people are feeling comfortable with their experiences here in the last month, and they write reviews on your website, and on social media, that can go a long way.
Yeah. Remember, the thing that we've been saying here all along, or I've been saying since I'm the one who's traveled, the biggest hurdle to getting people to travel again is getting people to travel again. I know that sounds silly, but the second you go out and you travel and you realize, hey, no big deal, it's safe as long as you take precautions and personal responsibility for stuff, it's going to be fine. Biran, we got a couple of questions for you coming from the audience. This is an interesting one. Biran, do you think an outside event would work? And then the other one, and the reason why I'm bringing it up at the same time, they're talking about regional AAHOA conferences and events that have been canceled. I don't think you could pull off an AAHOA Con, the big boy of all the conferences outdoors. But how do you see it? Maybe how could that apply to smaller regional events?
Yeah, I mean, we haven't really entertained any outdoor events. As a matter of fact, just this morning, we were talking about one of the golf tournaments that we're hosting in a month, if we should continue or not. And obviously, golf is an outdoor event.
Yeah.
As of now, we're continuing to host that event. Now, as far as conferences or regional meetings or something like that, bro, we really haven't entertained that. I know people say that outdoor is obviously a little bit more safer, but I just think that as these cases are going higher and higher week in and week out, I don't know if we want to take that risk. As far as regional meetings, we had regional meetings scheduled for the last 2 months, and we've had to postpone them. Our California regionals that were coming up here in the near future, we've had to push them back to 2021 because, we do that in conjunction with the California Hotel Lodging Association, and we pushed those back till next year. Now, we still have our other regionals still penciled in for this upcoming year. Hopefully, we won't have to reschedule those, but it's all fluid. And every week, as I said, our new news comes out, so we're just playing it by ear.
So then I guess my next question to you is, how do you stay flexible? How do you roll with the punches? Because it seems like every morning we get out of bed, I have my cup of coffee, there's a new crisis or a new opportunity to have. So, how do you focus on all of that, make sense of all of it, and move forward in a logical, determined fashion?
Yeah, so, I mean, you have to be mentally strong, right? And the goal here, as I took over as chair, is to assist our members, right? How do we get them through the toughest time that we've been in, right? I mean, we went through 9/11, we went through the 2008 financial crisis, but this is something totally different, right?
Right.
And a lot of our members came from, India with not much. And what we have become—
That's a little bit of an overstatement. Like nothing. It's amazing.
There's nothing, right? So what we've become, successful entrepreneurs said, just says it alone, right? That we can endure this and we will come out on the other side, on top. But it's going to take some time. Like I said, this is something that nobody's ever seen. I mean, we're going to have to be patient. Hopefully the government gives us more flexibility and helps us out with our liquidity, because nobody knows how long this is going to last. Everybody can predict, but the goal right now is hopefully just to get through this year and the next year and the next year, right? And that's the plan, right? So we want to, from an association standpoint, give as much resources and educational information to our members to basically, navigate through these times.
Right, and it's so important now more than ever because we're in a total world of you don't know what you don't know. So it's incumbent on everybody to find that education. That's why watching this show every day is great, and participating in your daily webinars that you do every day. I think it's at 2:00 Eastern Standard Time or something like that, right?
Yeah, they vary, but we've had over 100 webcasts since this pandemic, right?
Wow.
And thousands of people attend. So that tells us, right, Glenn, that people want to learn. People want, are finding our content valuable, right? I mean, this is all new to us, even though a lot of our members have had so many years of experience and have built, big portfolios. Everyone's, in this learning curve during these times.
Mm-hmm. Right. All right. So producer Jeff behind the scenes says you wrote a letter to Steve Mnuchin, but honestly, I don't know anything about that. That caught me by surprise. Number one, because I didn't know about it. And how did that even happen? Could you explain a little bit about what that was and what your goal is?
Yeah. So, we've been in contact with the current administration, as you know, that AAHOA has made a name in the last 4 or 5 years where they know who AAHOA is, and they've reached out to us several times to get feedback from us of how to handle some of this crisis, especially on the liquidity front and stuff, right? So even with the PPP, we were we had a hand in there. Even when we needed our owners to have more flexibility, we had a hand with they came up with the Flexibility Act. And now we're just asking them to, we've informed them about the CMBS. A lot of our members have CMBS loans, and we've kind of educated them to let them know that what we need to make sure that these hotels stay afloat and how they can assist. So we don't expect them to know from the get-go, but this is our industry, but it is our job to educate them and inform them of what hoteliers need to overcome this crisis.
Right. So it is so important. And fortunately, the government extended the PPP because, as we know, and we talked about here a lot, like if it wasn't extended, people weren't bringing back employees anyway. So why even bother having that money available if you're not going to be paying people? And what are you going to do? Pay them to stand around and do nothing and then lay them off at the end of that period of time? So glad to see that it's been extended. Now they're talking about extending that extra $600 to displaced workers over there. How is AAHOA processing this? What do you hope to achieve? Because we got to figure out a way to get people back to work, but also make sure that everybody's taken care of. So how do you guys process that and break it down?
From a personal standpoint, when this happened, I had employees, Glenn, that didn't feel comfortable and didn't have, the means to watch their kids, right? So I had people leave my hotels, not only because of that reason, but because they were making more money from unemployment than what they're making through me. Right. So we were losing people in that sense. But then the government came back and said that, hey, look, if there's a job for you, then then you're not eligible for unemployment. Mm-hmm. So now going forward, it's gonna be interesting to see how we navigate, even with the $600 that you mentioned. That is that going to be enough for them to sustain week in and week out, and is that going to cause us to lose more employees? Just as we started rehiring again as the economy reopened, are we going to go back in a different direction is to be seen.
Right. All right. So another question. What are you guys thinking about in terms of OTAs? I know you're working a lot on there, and it's a multi-year kind of situation. So maybe a quick update on what you're thinking about right now.
Yeah. Just to be transparent and honest with all your listeners, OTA has been one of our biggest challenges. We thought we made some headway last year with them, and it seemed like it came to a stop. I have a plan that I want to implement this year, a pretty aggressive one, especially in this time where our hotels need some relief from OTAs. I feel like OTAs are one of the last ones that have come to any kind of aid for our industry, right? So I ask all your listeners, everybody in this industry, to be united. And as we create a plan here in the near future to have kind of how to tackle OTAs, I think unity will create a stronger voice here in the near future. But I really, share the same frustration that our hoteliers and our members have with OTAs. I mean, in a time like this, if they can help us out, then when will they ever help us out? Is how I look.
Right.
So we're coming up with a plan here in the near future of how to kind of go about this and ask OTAs to basically help us out, because as hotel owners, they're eating us up.
Right. All right. We got a question here. Any news on second round of PPP? That I think that's going on in Capitol Hill, and we're going to have on Chip Rogers, the CEO of the AAHOA, on Monday. So hopefully we'll have some more clarity on that right now. But any idea what's going on from your point of view as of today?
Well, as far as the PPP, I know that just yesterday the House and the Senate just extended the deadline, right, to August 8th, because it was ending at the end of June. So now they have approved to extend where you can still apply till August 8th. Right now, it's on the president's desk to sign over. As far as the second round, I mean, there was a Flexibility Act. I think that there's obviously so many different states are even coming up with different kind of relief from a government level. I think we're going to see here in the near future what kind of assistance they can provide us.
Right. Well, I know you got to get going, Biran, but one last question.
Yeah.
How can supporters help? What could they do? Should they do a change.org petition or whatever it is? What do you think people could do to help get behind the hospitality industry so we could all move forward together?
I think that the approach needs to be strategic, right? And so where we have healthy dialogues with our brand partners. Our brand partners have given us relief during this time, and they continue to do so more. But our cost is still there, right, as hotel owners. So we're going to be asking our brands, hopefully, to give us more relief as this pandemic continues. I think that when associations like AAHOA are sending surveys out, I want members and people from our industry to give us feedback, so we know, so we can go back to these brand partners and OTAs to say, hey, look, this is what our members are wanting. Without that data, our voice isn't that strong, right? So I think that anytime that we have a call of action for our government or anything that we have that we want to take to our other industry partners, we've got to provide data, right? So we're going to come up with some more things here in the near future of how to make our voice even louder and more effective. I hope that all of you kind of, assist us in that, so we can help our industry and our owners out.
Right, because as we all know, knowledge is power, to resurrect that old cliche. And the more data that the industry has, the more support that we can get, and the more generally people can understand, especially those folks, those fat cats up there in the back rooms on, Capitol Hill, will know what an important aspect of the economy, the hospitality industry is. Biran, any final thoughts before you go, sir?
No, Glenn, thank you for having me today. I hope everyone stays safe and have some optimism. It's some tough times out there, but as I said before, we've been through it. We've been through several different crises before. I think we'll get over this sooner or later.
We will. I mean, no matter how dark it seems out there, there's always a light at the end. And I'll tell you, I started off this whole process super depressed, but I definitely feel optimistic. Sure, some of it's my chemical programming in my brain, but the reality is things are going to get better. Things always get better, but we just have to put our efforts and work really hard to get there. Biran Patel, thank you so much for being here today, my friend.
Thank you, Glenn. Enjoy the weekend.
And good luck. We'll get you back as soon as you have more details on your annual virtual conference. All right?
Thank you, Glenn.
All right. Thank you, sir. Be good. Will Lucas, Mint House, how are you, sir? Thank you for joining us. It's tough for you to follow Biran Patel, but I got to tell you, this is not going to be a good interview for you because I already can't stand you for several reasons. Went to Wharton. You're young. You're good looking. You keep starting new businesses, and I'm stuck in my house complaining about stuff. So I'm a little worried here about how this is going to go. But seriously, thanks for being here. I really appreciate you being here, and thanks for joining the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Glenn.
So, all right. So I love what you're doing over at Mint House. It's pretty cool. It's the whole apartment living, temporary housing type of trend I've been following for a number of years now. I started a channel called Here to Stay TV that was firmly focused in that world. So I know a whole lot about that business. But before we get started, folks aren't familiar with who you are and what your company does. Maybe give us a good, 30 seconds on all about what your organization is doing at Mint's House.
Yeah, absolutely. So at Mint House, we are a next generation hotel. So that means we have two fundamental differences as compared to your traditional hotel. The first is that we operate out of luxury multifamily buildings, so Class A apartment buildings in urban cores around the country. And so what we're doing is tapping into this rapidly changing demand where people are increasingly preferring an Airbnb style, short-term rental style accommodation over that traditional hotel stay. The second big difference about us is that we power the whole experience via technology. So that means digital check-in, digital checkout, digital concierge services. We offer customized fridge stocking, so you can actually pick out what you want. For groceries that'll be waiting in the fridge for you, you can do that on the app or via an SMS link. During non-COVID times, you can order on-demand massages. So we're really creating all of the operations and all of the amenities and putting that in the palm of your hand. So that's what makes us different. We are laser focused on the corporation and the business traveler. So there's a real need, and inside some of the largest corporations or all of the largest corporations to be able to send their folks to Airbnb style accommodations. There's tons and tons of internal demand, and corporations are generally unable to allow their folks to stay at some independently managed apartment in a city, even if their employees want to.
Right.
And so there's none of the duty of care, security compliance.
Right. Oh, so the whole notion of duty of care, for those of you who aren't familiar with it, is to it's kind of like a contract to make sure that people are going to be safe, that the place that they're staying in has all of the necessary precautions and things in place to make sure their employees can have a productive, healthy experience without being in danger. Will, I'm really curious as to that technology aspect. I think that's a pretty cool element to it. So you're doing check-in and check-out. That's all remote, but it also has me thinking that you don't need to rent out an entire building in order to pull this off. So is your model more about having select apartments in select buildings, or are you more like the Sonder model, take the whole building on a long-term lease and then do something with it?
Yeah, good question. So we're very comfortable operating in a building alongside traditional multifamily tenants. We're also comfortable taking the whole building.
Depending on demand and location and all of that stuff.
Right, exactly. So generally speaking, we're not taking kind of scattered individual one-off units. We generally like to have at least 40 units in any one location. But if that means that the other half of the building or the other, 2/3 of the building are traditional multifamily, that's totally fine with us.
Right. How many units do you have out there? Because right now you have 19 locations, 10 cities. Your headquarters is New York, and places like Denver, Minneapolis, Milwaukee, Detroit, Pittsburgh, Louisville, Nashville. Because by law you have to have a place in Nashville these days. Philadelphia, Miami, and Greenville. All pretty good business cities. Makes sense.
Yeah, exactly. So we're growing around the country. So approaching 500 active units. We should hopefully end the year, with twice that amount. Most of the major business cities that you would imagine are on our target list or we're already operating in.
Have you had to pivot in the last 3-4 months? Because you talk about business travel. There's not a lot of long-term business travel going on currently. So how are you thinking about things? How are you changing things to make sure that your company stays successful? And what do you think about the future in regards to that?
Yeah. So right in the middle of March, we saw mass cancellations of our typical business. Right. Our normal average nightly stay is about 3 nights. And we also saw bookings really come to a halt right around the second and third week of March. And so approaching April, we were looking at single-digit occupancy for April, like kind of a scary sight. However, we're now sitting in a fantastic position. We're actually at 86% occupancy for June.
What?
For April, we're able to clear over 50%. We're at 53% occupancy, and last month we were at 70, and we've moved that up for June to 80. We'll likely exceed that for July. It's a little crazy. We're many multiples higher than the hotels that we comp ourselves to, which is the upper upscale urban hotel. And how you're probably wondering how we've been able to do that.
That was going to be my next question, but I'm sitting here agog at those numbers, honestly.
Yeah, so we have shifted our average nightly stay from 3 nights to 21 nights. So given the nature of our rooms, given their apartment style, that you've got a couch where you can watch Netflix, a place to work, groceries in the fridge, a washer dryer, they obviously work very, very fully stocked kitchens. They work very, very well for longer term stays. So we're drawing in this multi-week business, but also multi-month business. So we're feeling pretty good about the future for us.
Yeah, and one of the things that everybody out there needs to understand is it's just basic math. When you think about a regular transient hotel, you're trying to fill that exact room 15 times a month, maybe 10 if you're lucky. But when you start to focus on the type of clientele that Will is looking at, you're really looking at one person for a whole month instead of those 15. That changes the magnitude of the effort that you need to put in, the resources that you need to put in, and creates a much more highly profitable product out there. But the next question is, the real question is, are tenants comfortable with you? How do you negotiate that? Because honestly, the good folks at Airbnb have created a lot of issues for people where there's been a lot of distrust, discomfort, and all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So you're talking about the longer term tenants that we might share a building with?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So, we use technology to get around a lot of the potential issues that could come up as a result of us running a
invisibility cloak, so people don't know the guests are there.
Well, first we've got very easy to use app that allows you to find your room, so you're not wandering down the hallway asking folks where rooms 222 is. We've got pictures that you can scroll through and find it. You've got the digital concierge, so you can fire off a text message question to us. It's a lot easier, faster response than trying to find someone.
And the way people prefer to communicate.
Yeah, exactly. More and more that's the case. And then, once you do get in the room, we utilize this technology that actually measures the decibel level in the room. Does not listen to anything. It's just a decibel level. So if there is a disturbance, that we're made aware instantaneously, and we can respond to that guest. So in many ways, we have more control.
If you're good at detecting disturbances, does that mean Darth Vader is on staff? Because he does that really, really well.
We are hiring, so.
Well, that's good news. Just generally speaking, that you're hiring. My guess is also, not to put words into your mouth, so just tell me if I'm right or wrong. But if you're dealing with a lot of corporate clientele that are representing their businesses, it's probably a different ilk of guests than you have somebody trying to come in and rent an Airbnb for a week.
That's exactly right. Yeah. So we're starting with a totally different type of customer than the one that you read about. That are making a bunch of noise or having a big party and making their neighbors mad. So absolutely, most of these folks have their heads down and are there to work.
Right. All right. So we got the question that everybody who comes into the Gauntlet's got to respond to. What are you doing for cleaning procedures? How have they changed? What are you thinking about?
Yeah, it's a good question. It's something that nobody ever asked us before. Wasn't really talked about all that much. Of course,
just assumed, right?
Right. Exactly. And now, of course, it's one of the most important things, because we're talking about people's health and safety. So we have really enhanced our cleaning processes. We've actually rolled out what we call the Mint Clean standard. This is now, it was a 64-point checklist. We've added 10 additional steps. It's now a 74-point checklist. We provide PPE for all of our employees, face mask coverings, gloves. We're using the EPA recommended chemicals. Generally, we're cleaning every surface twice. So we're wiping it down and then disinfecting it afterwards. And then interestingly, we've rolled out some pretty cool technologies as well. I think as a newer brand, we have to work even harder than the larger, more established brands to offer that trust and demonstrate that credibility to the market. And so one of these technologies is something called Penetrex. We actually cover all of the surfaces. That would include doorknobs, remote controls, countertops. And this actually creates an environment on the surface that is inhospitable to viruses or bacteria. If it lands on that surface, it's instantly killed. Another technology we have, which is very cool, it actually generates a reactive oxygen species into the air. What does that mean? It means there's an oxygen, so instead of an O2, it's an O1. That actually binds with any organic material that might be in the air and kills the virus. So that's cool because if you walk in the room and the room has been sterilized and clean, but it's on your outerwear, we'll actually kill that and clean it off your person.
Wow.
So yeah, something we're taking very, very seriously. We also provide some mandatory time in between a checkout and a check-in. So in at least 24 hours, in some case 48 hours for an extra safety precaution.
Right, that makes sense. We're getting a lot of really good questions that have never been asked before on the show. Are you on the GPS, and if so, how are your properties loaded on the GDS?
Yes, we are. We're fully integrated on the GDS, and all the consortia programs, and so that gives us, for those that aren't familiar, of course, that gives us access to all of the corporations to book directly with us. And in fact, we've signed in the last 45 to 60 days, we've signed 7 new Fortune 100, Fortune 200 corporate partnerships, which is more than we've ever signed in a period of that time. And I think it's because the market is responding to our offering. So we have a fully contactless check-in process and checkout process. We always have. You've never had to go face-to-face with anyone in order to get into your room. And we offer all these digital amenities once you get in the room, not to mention the much more comfortable setting when you're in there. If you think about it, a traditional hotel is really designed for you to sleep and for you to use the bathroom and then really get out into the outside world for every other thing that you need to do. And that's quite the opposite for us. And I think that's really resonating with our corporate partners, which is why we've been able to sign so many.
Right. And the whole notion of staying in what was traditionally called corporate housing or corporate apartments, but has now been reinvented in a lot of instances, is that those guests don't want to have to check in with somebody. When I first started getting inculcated into the magic of these facilities, it annoyed me that the first time I had to do it, I had to go somewhere to find the person, or I had to wait for them to show up to physically hand me a key. That was frustrating. That was friction that was unnecessary, that created barriers between me and loving that product. By eliminating those types of things, you make great points with guests right away. And having those cleanliness precautions in there is really terrific. The other question that we've got in regards to the same kind of theme is, are you using outside vendors for everything when it comes to taking care of the apartments, or are you partnering with the companies that are already managing the buildings?
So it is our staff. We run our operation entirely ourselves.
And they're all fully furnished and all of that kind of stuff.
We have our own design team, procurement team, our own brand team. We outfit the units. We install our technology. We have GMs in every market, property managers in every building. Our own cleaners, for the most part. We do in some cases use, like all hotels, use a percentage of our cleaning force is outsourced to agencies. But generally, we're controlling the entire operation. If it's a building level issue, most of the time, like an HVAC or something like that, we are reaching out to the building. But for anything in our domain, we're running that.
Right. Kind of like when I lived in a co-op in Brooklyn. I was responsible for everything inside the walls, everything from the walls out. You would talk to the building about, right?
Exactly.
So
that's right.
You joined, you created this company back in 2017. What were you thinking before that? Where did this idea come from? How did you know that this was going to be your future, Will?
Yeah, so I saw firsthand as a business traveler myself before the fact that I felt uncomfortable when I was traveling for leisure. I much prefer to stay in Airbnb and did so every time. When I was traveling for business and I had a tight schedule, I had an important meeting, I found myself kind of against my own wishes choosing to stay in a hotel because of that reliability, safety, all the things that a hotel brand can guarantee you. And so realized that there was a huge need to build a brand that could be trusted for the business traveler, for the corporation. So that was the first kind of realization I had. And then didn't come from the hotel space, did a huge deep dive and realized that the hotel world has been slow to adopt a lot of this technology that I think, frankly, should exist throughout the entire.
I'm shocked that somebody would say the hotel industry is slow to adapt to technology. Wow.
Yeah. So what I like to say is that 10 years ago, airports did away with the in-person check-in where we had to go wait in line and get our boarding pass, and yet 90+% of hotels are. You still have to do that.
Right. I think it's really terrific that you settled on this. So where does this all go from here? What are your goals? What are you thinking about when it comes to the future, sir?
Yeah. So the name of the game for us right now is growth and expansion. So we are reaching out, to real estate partners, to big developers, big property managers, and offering to manage their buildings. So I think we have demonstrated in this time we're in a very unique position to be able to drive revenue into a multifamily building that may that's either under development or has vacancy issues or just wants to generate a higher NOI. And so the way we structure those deals is very similar to how the hotel world structures their deals. We take a percentage of revenue, we take an incentive fee. We're aligned with the ownership group. We look to sign long-term partnerships. And I think the difference about us and a traditional hotel model is that if we underperform, if the worst were to happen, the fundamental structure as a multifamily building is totally in place. So from the developer real estate owner standpoint, you can always double back to that use and you've got a pretty safe landing. And that is not necessarily true in the hotel space. If a hotel doesn't work, traditional hotel building doesn't work as a hotel, you're likely going to lose money.
Right. And it's a lot more flexible for somebody like you, right? Because we talk about hotels. You can't just get rid of a hotel right now necessarily, right? But you can put airlines in in the desert and park them there and take out that inventory. You theoretically have that same process. Maybe you can't do it instantly, but you can over time adapt to have more or less and be a little bit more flexible. One interesting question that we got nope, sorry, that's not the right one. I can't find it now. But here it is. Gym, fitness accessibility. How does all that work? Because everybody's got to get their workout on.
Yeah, so we have some interesting partnerships in room on the fitness side of things. So we have a partnership with Mirror. Rooms, of course, are big enough to support this, but you can conduct the workout in your room if you want through this, using the Mirror. Then almost all of our buildings do have gyms in the buildings. Typically, if anyone's ever toured the multifamily world around the country, the gyms in these multifamily buildings are typically much better than the ones you would find in a hotel. And our guests are welcome to use all the amenities in the building, including the gym.
Excellent. Loyalty program at all?
Yes. So we are actually going to roll out our loyalty program. Target is before the end of the year. We understand that's super important for business travelers to be able to generate points for themselves on their, for their families and for themselves while they're traveling for work. So that's something that's in the works, and we hope to get it out this year.
Excellent. That's fantastic. All right, before we let you go, is there anything else that I missed that you want to make sure that we cover today?
I think we did a good job covering that. We're really excited about our future. I think if this COVID has done one thing, we always thought our model was the model of the future, but I think this has really accelerated the adoption of this model.
Right, man. Totally.
And so, we're very, very optimistic and really excited about what the world holds for us at Mint House.
Beautiful. And how can we find you if people are interested in either staying with you or finding out how they might be able to make an investment in your company? I'm sure you like investments.
Yeah, absolutely. So www.minthouse.com is where you can find all that information. And my name is Will Lucas, and so it shouldn't be too hard to track me down. If you're a real estate owner, we've got a page there. We'd love to speak with you. If you're an investor, absolutely would like to take that call.
Excellent. Beautiful, man. Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it.
Great. Thanks so much.
Have yourself a great holiday weekend.
All right. Appreciate it. You too.
Yeah, thank you. All right. So listen, I think the real point here is this is a new and exciting business. I've been talking about this as the future for a number of years now, right? Traditional hotels, while they're great and they've proved to be a great real estate investment, all of these new products that are coming out there have the flexibility and viability in ways that we've never seen before. More space, more privacy, more ability to live like a local. All of these trends that we've seen. And he's right. Will is right. And we've been talking about this on the show for the last 4 months, right? All about the notion of trends that we saw in the market accelerating at a faster pace. Now is the time to think about these alternative lodging things, all of these short-term rentals, brand new business. There's still a lot of opportunities for each and every one of you to find success within it. There may be a lot of companies coming in. We talked about Sonder, Y Hotels, another interesting concept, one where they rent in brand new buildings until those buildings get sold out by owners. How cool is that? My friends over at Bridge Street, we're doing some really terrific stuff around the world with it. There's lots of opportunities. There's new things out there for you to try, and they're super terrific products. Remember, I'm a guy who loves and is passionate about the hotel business. But when prices got too much about 4 or 5 years ago in certain cities, I discovered the magic qualities of renting apartments for short terms. I was able to hang out with people that I like in a room together while still having places for privacy at a price that was less expensive than a traditional hotel room would be. How amazing is that? It's a win-win for the customer. It's great for the business owner. It's a unique thing, and I encourage everybody to look into it. If you have any more questions, you can ask me about it because I'm pretty steeped in this business. So I think that's going to be pretty good. Now, what I'd like to do before we wrap up, I think I'd like to bring back in producer Jeff for a minute. Jeff, what do you think about that? We'll bring him back in there. Hey, man. Yep, you've produced yourself into silence over there. You've muted yourself, my friend.
I have, yeah. I wanted to make sure that no one heard me rummaging around while I was in the green room. Before we wrap up today, I'm really excited because next week, Jeff, we've got our next hotel reboot, and it's great to see all those people coming in and signing up for our series. Our first one was 2 weeks ago. We focused on design, and the good news is you can still get that master pass for all 4 classes, and you can watch it on demand for as long as you'd like after it goes. So jump in now. Join us for our next session, which is going to be about reinventing hotel ownership. And that'll be on Wednesday at 2:00, right, Jeff? Yep, exactly. And, from what I've seen, the panel is amazing. And you are always, talking about the right points, talking about the topics that hopefully our attendees want to hear, and engaging conversation and doing it in a way that we really haven't seen before.
Yeah, I mean, hey, we've got great people. We've got Allie Hope. She's a Chief Development Officer with Virgin Hotels. And congratulations to Virgin Hotels. They just opened up their Nashville property just yesterday. I think they've got an event going on today to celebrate it. Jeff, I was hoping we could be there.
I know. I can't wait to get to that. But with the holiday weekend coming up, it just wasn't going to be practical. Their CEO, Raul Leal, says he'll be back in a few weeks. Hopefully, we'll be able to get out there and do a remote show from there.
I could use some hot chicken in my life right now.
I could certainly use some hot chicken in my life as well. I got to tell you, I thought you were going a different direction with that. But also, we got Taylene Stab. She's the global head of True by Hilton. We've got several other people as well that I cannot remember right now, but trust me, it is such an incredible panel. Sign up right now at hotelreboot.com. Hotelreboot.com.
You're forgetting our guest today.
I'm forgetting everything, man. You know why? Because I got holiday weekend on the brain. I am going to be making some great barbecue. I've got my racks and racks and racks of spare ribs ready to go to turn into the best, most finest barbecue you can have here on Long Island. No, I'm not going to say I'm better than you, Texas. I'm not going to say better than some of the other places, but I think it's going to come out pretty good. And the cool thing is you're going to get to try it because you're coming out to New York.
I am. I'm on my way there tomorrow to, do a little one-on-one work with you. And am I the first guest of the Glenn Houseman Barbecue Smokehouse and Grill Bed and Breakfast?
You will be for the 2020 season, the first guest over at the Houseman Resort Pool Club and Smokehouse. Yes, absolutely. We've been we've been cutting off access to our facilities, but we're reopening right now. And
great. I'm excited to be the first guest. I hope that your cleaning standards are up to par. And I will make sure to review you on TripAdvisor.
Well, I got to tell you, Inside Edition was over here the other day, and I think I was able to please them. So we're in pretty good shape over here. I'm looking forward to having people over this weekend. We're gonna have a little socially distanced party. Actually, I've got like 3 families coming over, so we're setting up one table over here, one table over here, one table over there. So hopefully we'll have a little fun with that.
And I just a note, I will be in the pool the whole time.
Oh, I can't wait for that. It is freaking perfect over there. All right. So tomorrow we're going to do something a little bit different. I think we're going to run a best of episode tomorrow because quite frankly, after doing the show every single day since, I don't know, March 10th or something like that, I'm freaking pooped. I'm exhausted. I need a couple of days off. I need to enjoy myself a little bit so I could recharge and refresh the batteries in order to continue to bring you guys great content out there. Speaking of great stuff, we're now surpassing 750,000 views every single month. This is turning out to be the most successful show the hospitality industry has ever seen. How amazing is that? We started out in earnest. We started out just trying to change, help people get through these times. And look how far we've come, man.
I'm super proud to be a part of it. And there's some, we've had some of these interviews on where, honestly, they were part of the crowning achievement of my career. And some of the talks and some of the guests have just been inspiring, even for someone that's not in the hospitality industry. Just being able to listen to them and gain insight and inspiration from them has been amazing.
Yeah, it's funny you should say that. I got a note from somebody yesterday that says that they're not in the hotel business. They don't care about the hotel business, but they love watching the show because everyone is open, honest, real, and they're learning all about what it means to be a true leader by all the guests that we're featuring on there. So I thought that was really rewarding to me. And I'll say all of you folks that have sent me personal notes in the last few months, thank you. It's really buoyed my spirits. It's fed my soul. It's given me the strength to be able to give you the interviews that we need to get through in this time.
Yeah, and I'll just say, going back to the day off tomorrow, you and Anthony, I'm amazed at your work ethic. You guys just crush it every day and are still able to take the time to do the show and all the other things that you're doing with Hotel Reboot, Hospitality Success. And I think it's important to revisit some of these amazing interviews. We've gained viewers in the past past couple of months that possibly missed some of them. To the viewers out there, if you guys have any suggestions, any interviews that you'd like to see on some of these best ofs that we'll probably be running in the next couple of months, shoot Glenn or myself an email or drop it in the comments section, and we'll make sure to put it in on a best of show.
That's right. And I may actually take another day off this summer. So who knows? We'll see. We'll see what happens. I really hope we can do some great programs with AAHOA in honor of their virtual event that's going to be happening. And again, I just want to thank every one of you for giving us the love and support to build this great community out there. Any final thoughts before we go?
Same here. Thanks to all of the viewers. It's so fun to watch the comments just keep coming in throughout the entire show, and then throughout the day, you know, constantly getting updates on views and comments from the show basically 24/7. And even if I get woken up at 4 a.m. because I've noticed my phone has lit up because I've got a notification of a comment,
Right.
It's still fun. It's still fun to wake up and see that comment.
It is incredibly rewarding. I will tell you, it's been the darkest times, but it's also been the most incredible and rewarding time in my entire life. Wow. I mean, I don't know what else to say. I want to thank Anthony for being such a great co-host of mine. It's really been fun. We did the Checking In podcast for about 1.5 years before we started this day show, and it's working with him is just really special. I want to thank David Mignano, our behind the scenes segment producer. You may have seen him on screen when we did the charity poker tournament. He's been really amazing and helpful, being able to get all of the guests to submit to pre-interviews so we could get to understand what they want to talk about, getting them scheduled, and helping bridge the gap between the show and our guests so I don't have to spend all day working on that. Jeff, thank you, man. I love you, buddy. We've gotten to know each other over 10 years, and I don't think I could have done this without you. Your encouragement has been incredible. You helping me create this great production has been absolutely incredible. So thank you. I look forward to seeing you and not hugging you in person.
Yeah, love working with you, and I am so ready for a week of your barbecue.
No, I can't.
You better bring it. You better
Jeff, as soon as I pick you up from the airport, we've got to start preparing those ribs and letting them sit overnight so the spices get into them. We got to get up early on Saturday morning and cook. All right, guys, you know how I feel. You've got one life, so blaze on. And Jeff,
thanks for checking in.
All right, see you guys on Monday. Please watch our encore episode tomorrow. Love you guys.